watching and listening to Mamma Mia! This is Fire Talk, Footy Edition with Nicholas Fiore.
Welcome back, everybody, to Mamma Mia! This is Fire Talk. I'm your host, Nicholas Fiore. This is episode number 60 and Footy Edition number 16, sponsored by The Bottom Line, 22 Front Street West, downtown Toronto, the best chicken wings in the city, and that's The Bottom Line. I'm with Halifax Wanderers FC head coach Patrice Gheisar. Patrice, thank you. I know it's preseason. I know the season is starting to gear up slowly for 2025. I know you're a busy man, a family man, so I appreciate you taking the time and coming on the show.
No, thank you. Yeah, for sure. It's a lot of excitement. The ball will start rolling, and the fun part is coming. You've done so much administration stuff, but it's always good to stay connected. And, you know, you guys do a great job, and to connect with your audience, it's a pleasure.
Well, absolutely. I mean, myself playing competitive football in Ontario for a long time and in the GTA. Obviously, you're from the GTA too. It's good to see that the game is growing in Canada and in the Canadian Premier League, which is very important. Obviously, we see the Women's League, the Northern Super League starting up this year, hopefully, as well, as teams are gearing up. So it looks like the game is growing in Canada. Have you seen that from your perspective as well?
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, I think that's an easy one to assess. You could look at it in regards to the CPL. I think CPL is at a much higher level than it was 6 years ago, and that's not a lack of respect to the league. It's 6 years ago. It's just more to what it's grown into, not just with the players, with the coaches and the environment, and credit to the fans who come out and watch games. Like, the atmosphere has become buzzing. And obviously, you could see the national team and what's going on with it. It's crazy and gets you so excited that the World Cup is, I don't know, less than 500 days away, and the national team's really at a good place. And then at last, you know, you got players playing for Bayern Munich, you got players playing in Champions League, scoring against Juventus with Jonathan David. I mean, what's going on is fantastic. So it's I don't want to label it the golden generation, but it certainly is a group of young men that are representing this country at its highest.
Speak about the national team, and you had an opportunity in November 2024 being invited to the Canada men's national team training camp as part of the Canada's community coaching program. How was that experience? I mean, obviously you've coached a lot of years, you've managed a few teams, but to be with the team and the players that are going to be in the World Cup, not once but now twice.
Yeah, I mean, first, it's incredible to be a part of national team setup, even if it's like you're a guest coach. So it was great being able to see how it's done, and the work and the commitment that's put through was great to see, in a different set of eyes, and how it's applied, and seeing some of the players and the speed of play and how you compare it to CPL also gives you kind of a perspective, you know, about how it is and how it's going to get to. So I was really happy about it. And, you know, being able to see Alistair, Dane, and Kamal, and to think that I'd seen them, you know, the four of us hadn't been together for 7, 8, 10 years since they all went their different ways. So it was really good to have all of us together. And yeah, it was fantastic.
You started your playing career with York University and then the York Region Shooters back in the Canadian Professional Soccer League. Might feel like a lifetime ago for you now, but 98 to 02, and within 98 with the York Region Shooters as well. What did you take though from school and pro experience there that sets you up to say, okay, I want to be a manager now?
Yeah, it is a long time ago. My goodness, when you say 98, it's in a different, listen, I just felt like at that point you started to see the value of a coach and what they can really do at that level. You could really see it. And I think for me, what the importance that I was starting to see is that forget managing and coaching players that become better players, but the sport was really saving lives, giving people a second life and a second opportunity to go to university or do whatever, something better. So I felt like it's a real chance to make bring a positive message and put some people in a different trajectory. So that, yeah, I would say that for sure.
You started though in your manager career as an assistant coach with York Lions, SC Toronto, and Ryerson University now. Well, not called that anymore now, but back then it was Ryerson. What made you in a way want to be a head coach, maybe more than an assistant coach? And what in the assistant role did you take to say, okay, I need to do this in order to be a, good and efficient head coach?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's so important now. You could see there's so many young head coaches. I felt like the opportunity to work and receive mentorships from some amazing coaches, like at that point TMU, or now back then Ryerson, with Ivan Joseph, and when he had come on to learn a lot, and then with York, it was a national championship at 2010, and to win a national championship at Toronto, working with Carm, who had been working for quite some time, and then SC Toronto, working with Carm as well, learning a lot, and then obviously when Carm stepped away from SC Toronto, it was a seamless transition for me to take over. I think like it's so important as an assistant coach to come into a place where you're valued, you learn, and then there's a progression plan for you to take the next role. So I felt after a few years, I learned enough to kind of see what kind of coach I want to be. I didn't want to copy the head coaches I had worked for, but I felt like to be able to draw inspirations from each of them and take away what you liked is super important as well.
After that, well, speaking of Carm, obviously you went to Vaughan, and Vaughan Azzurri,
Yeah.
obviously a storied club within League1 Ontario, men and women's sides, winning with the men as well. You're with Vaughan from 2014 all the way, I guess, until 2022, until you went to HFX. What experience did you gain in, I guess you really could call it the semi-pro level, because that's what League1 Ontario is, in the structure that you took from Vaughan as well, especially winning a championship to instill now in the pro ranks?
Yeah, I think coming to Vaughan, the club only had 24 rep teams, and I think now it's like above 55. So I think what was important there is as soon as I came in, we started this idea with the men's high performance, and we didn't have any teams, so we started right away with the 1991s. We merged two groups. We worked. I think at this point, for the next 6, 7 years, it was all about development and putting the Vaughan name there. I think 2013, 2014, Vaughan wasn't a household name, and it was always a second tier to some of the bigger clubs around, especially in York region. And immediately with our 91s and 92s winning Ontario Cup, and back then Ontario Cup had so much value. To win Ontario Cup with our 92s to go to nationals, and keep the movement going brought a lot of recognition to the club. Now, recognition meant you drew some players, but we also had to do extra work to develop the players that were in our backyard. So by the time they reached 16 years old, they were prepared to be competitive and be a part of the vision that we had to become one of the greatest programs in this country.
In that process, you also coached Seneca Sting, college in the OCAA 2019 2022, coach of the year in 2019. But I really want to ask what was the difference of skill and of level between the college level to the League One level?
Yeah, so college, I felt the big games are really similar to League One and even university. And I mean, that's not to say every game is not a big game. Of course it is. But, there are still some colleges that are trying to push their level up. So I think like when you look at League One, every game is going to give you a massive challenge. In college, maybe it's not every game because some programs are still continuing to develop and are doing a great job. So I think it's growing to be where it needs to be. But in League One, it's ready now. Every game is tough in university, OUA, or AUS here. Every game is tough. So it's got a kind of a little bit of a different consistency that you need.
Since going to Vaughan, all the hard work you put in, what kind of feeling did you have when you ended up winning that League One championship in 2022 with the Vaughan Azzurri?
Yeah, it was amazing. I remember, I think for me, it was really about 2021. 2021, we went undefeated. I think that team lost one game in 3 years. And we lost in the playoffs 2021 to Oakville Blue Devils in the semis. So the only thing I really thought about, and that year we also lost with Seneca and failed to go to nationals, I think at OUA semis. So really 2022 wasn't about revenge, but was about growing And then I know in 2022 with Seneca College, we lost at a national championship final in extra time. And and we went undefeated the whole season except OUI finals. But in regular season, we went undefeated 10-0. And the Vaughan League1 team, they had an invincible season where they went undefeated. And it felt great to bounce back from the previous year's setback. And I felt like the extra energy and the enthusiasm the group had to make sure we could erase the previous year was really, really good. And, I think like we had good players, but we earned that championship with hard work.
100%, 100%. That team was, they had a lot of talented players on that squad, that's for sure. And just before that, though, in 2019, Canadian Championship with Vaughan. And I found that this is pretty cool how you defeated the team that you're currently managing now, 1-0 in one of the legs, Vaughan defeating HFX. Did you think maybe that was the start of the gap slowly starting to close between semi-pro and pro within Canada?
Yeah, for sure. I think that was it. And listen, that team had, we were lucky to have a team of Ryan Raposo played on that team, who's in the MLS. You had Alistair Johnston on that team. You had other guys that maybe, Max Kowal, who played in Europe, and maybe other guys who should have gotten a chance. But on Harris, it was a real AJ Gray. So you could see at that point that there's a lot of things that are going on that are starting to show that not only is the gap shrinking, but you could discover a lot of good players everywhere. I think that was the big thing, that there's a lot of good players in this country. So I think that was probably bigger than that. There's a bigger pool of players, and sure, the levels are getting a bit closer. I still think there's a difference in the level because of those guys still have to work and train. They don't have full-time strength and conditioning. They don't have full-time physio. So if given the opportunity with the same level, I think they could be better for sure.
And that follows up perfectly into my next question. It was simply going to be, what is the difference in your eyes from League1 Ontario, from semi-pro to pro in the CPL?
Yeah, I think, we said in League One, there's no easy games. I could definitely tell you in CPL, every game is extremely challenging. I think the biggest challenge and difference is the travel. Our furthest trip in League1 Ontario was Windsor, where we drove for like 3-4 hours. Here, every game for us is a flight, and we're obviously in Halifax in the corner. So you fly 4 times to British Columbia. That's a 7-hour trip with a 4-hour time difference. Nothing prepares you for that. We travel more than any pro team in the world in any sport. Our team, our CPL team. So it's what do you need? You need obviously resilience and mental toughness. You could talk about freshness. So that's one. And then obviously the ambiance around the field, being at Halifax, great stadium, sold out every game, lots of fans, great feeling. But I do certainly see that League One is growing more and more, and a lot of clubs are getting more and more fans in the stands.
This is working perfect because on Tuesday evening, I spoke to Jordan Wilson from One Soccer, and he said where you feel like a true pro is in Halifax at HFX Wanderers, the stadium, the fans, the atmosphere within almost all of the CPL. Out of his words, that's where you feel the most. And obviously with the travel, it kind of is tying into one. How, great and of an opportunity it is to coach in the professional game, but in the professional environment that is treated like one in Halifax.
For sure. Yeah, listen, I mean, you remember every game, obviously, but the 2 games that when we beat Forge in the 99th minute, I felt like I've been in stadiums with 60,000 people. Our 6,000 made it feel 6,000. And when we played Pacific at home for the playoff game, I don't think anybody sat on their seat. It was fantastic, man. So, yeah, it's a great place and a place a lot of people want to be a part of, and somewhere that I feel very lucky to be a part of every day.
I want to give you a date and see if you remember what happened on that date, November 30th, 2022.
November 30th. That's, I think, the day that I was offered the position. because I think I officially came out on December 1st.
Yeah.
But there was a bit of a leak that came out, so I received like 60 texts that day, and I didn't respond to any of them till the day after. But yeah, that was the appointment.
There it is. Signed, obviously, named HFX Wanderers FC head coach. And you gotta love those leaks, eh? You gotta love those leaks. Then your phone is absolutely just ding, 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 and you can't say nothing. It's too soon, right? Then who knows what can happen. So that's awesome. I also want to touch upon your first pro win in your first pro match. Excuse me, first pro win. Who was it against and what day was it? And if you remember the score.
Yeah, it was Valor 2-0. And I think actually I could even tell you Callum Watson scored 1 goal. And actually, I think Callum scored both goals, maybe. Watson scored both goals. And I would say it was right near my birthday. So I would say June 10th, 2023, maybe. 9th or 10th.
Right on. June 10th, 2023, 2-0 win versus Valor.
Yeah.
Those are the things, right? Doesn't matter what level, what age you are. Those are the things that really mean something. What did that mean for you?
Yeah, I mean, that you come in year one and you have your expectation of like trying to get yourself going. Feet on the ground, clear eyes, looking at day by day and not looking at what's to come or making it sure that you're working. But I mean, the first 8 games not to have a win is nerve-wracking. So you're like, oh God, what's going on? It wasn't a great April. It was an okay May. Although we were tying a lot of games. We had 1 loss so you could say, did we not have a win? And I said, we had 1 loss in our first 7 games. And then we lost to Ottawa, came home. And then when we beat Valor, it wasn't the win against them. And they were a really good team. It was the feeling in the change room to see the relief, because I also remember that I went on to win the Manager of the Month in June, because we went on a stretch to win 5 out of the next 6 games. So we just went on fire. We beat Ottawa at home. We beat Calgary at home for, I think, maybe the first time. And we scored 3 goals on them. So it's sure, training, players, but football's so much about momentum and enthusiasm. So much about connecting with your fans, connecting with the way you play, connecting with your players. So that allowed us to do that after that win.
Obviously, it's when you get personal recognition, but when you're a coach, you worry about your players and your team and everyone around you. But 2021, League 1 Ontario East Division Coach of the Year, 2022, League 1 Ontario Men's Coach of the Year. Then you go, like you said, CPL Manager of the Month that month in 2023. Is it still, as you continue to develop, as you continue to grow and get older too, that these personal achievements are cool in a sense where the hard work that you're putting in gets rewarded, even though, you're the coach and you want to focus on your players and your team?
Yeah, of course. Listen, without a doubt, I joke about it, but I still remember every one of my Ontario Cups, and I won 14. And it was a very difficult task. So all the victory, listen, winning championship is what it's really about. But I will say last year, 2023, being nominated for Coach of the Year, I also felt like that's as clear as a team award as there is, because you could never be nominated for Coach of the Year if your team did really poorly. So when I did get the Coach of the Month, I was like, there's no Team of the Month, but I believe that's what that award is. Don't look at it as the Coach of the Month. We were the Team of the Month. And if I was nominated for Coach of the Year, we were nominated for Team of the Year. And obviously we tied, for second place in my first year. So that was great. And I think, personally, listen, it's great to feel recognized, great to see the growth. You want that. But I think when you get these coaching awards, it really shows that the team's doing well, and it's about the team.
As you started coaching, in the youth system anyways, and then obviously gradually moving up and up with certifications and stuff like that, what did you take from your coaching at the younger levels in order to help you grow year after year in order to get to where you are today?
Yeah, I think you could take away something from every setback and also every experience. For me, when I remember working with young players, it's a lot about development, but it's really about looking at the details, because where the player is like, let's just say he's an 80, with one little detail that's been overlooked, you could make him an 85. The one little thing. So I think taking that and bringing it here and like saying, okay, we're not developing a 27-year-old player, but at the same time, you could tweak the slightest thing to help them improve. So, challenging players daily to look at a different technique of kicking the ball, receiving, whatever, the details. I thought that was really important. And then, with our younger players to understand their development and, this is such a widely discussed subject, development. It's not linear. It's not predictable. If it was, then every next Messi would have developed. They said Ansu Fati was the next Messi. They said Bojan Krsic was the next Messi. Then what happened? So if Barca gets it wrong with predicting what the kid becomes, then surely the world also has that. So I think it's important to understand, not to put pressure when you're developing these players. Make it like known that when they get to the CPL and they're a young player, take pressure off of them and let them know it's about one day at a time. But also, the thing that I took away from working with young players is I also have a responsibility to help them become a better man, better father when the time comes, a better son, and a better brother. So I think those are some of the things that I've looked to apply today.
And is that a part of your coaching philosophy or what you pride yourself in coaching? Because I coach U13 boys in the Halifax Soccer Club right now, and I've coached for 10 years with my national C, and I've noticed that what I want to do, even though I'm at a younger age, at 29, I want to coach and I want to teach these kids life lessons on and off the field. That's something that seems like that you pride yourself.
Yeah, for sure. Listen, when I was at Kamal's wedding a couple of weeks ago, we were just talking about that, about how much arguments I used to have with him when he was younger. But so I think it's really important that it's not always about, I want you to do well so I can win. It has to be, I want you to do well so you're a better player today than yesterday. And sometimes that entails a kick, sometimes a punch, sometimes a hug, and sometimes all three on the same day. So I think it's important to know how can you get your players to do better. Some just don't react well to that, and some do. But I think, yeah, as you said, it's a huge part of it. I think we all care about our top three guys, at youth level, but what about the 17th and the 18th guy on your team? They show up every day. And I always said, judge my teams based on not our 97s where Kamal went to Syracuse, Dane St. Clair went to Maryland. Judge us on the 17th and 18th guy. And every single player on those teams got a placement. Whether it's CIS, whether it's a lower tier Division 1 or D2, we still looked at placing every single player. And that's a responsibility.
100%. So then based on that, in your opinion, what is the most rewarding thing about coaching for you?
I think seeing your players grow. Well, listen, like when I was watching the World Cups, I just couldn't believe when Kamal stood up to Modric and went to his face. Like, it felt crazy, So like that's something, because it brings you back memories of being around them. So seeing your players play at the highest level, and maybe you were able to help them 0.00001%, but that's still, you're part of their journey, and that's our job. So that's one. And then the other part is, even if they're not playing in the World Cup, just seeing them grow. I have a few of my players that I've still stayed connected with, that have like graduated from NCAA. The previous guys now are getting married, they have a job, they've started lives. So it's really, fulfilling to see that they're all doing well and on their course of, enjoying life and becoming good, members of this society in this country.
Isn't that something awesome for you personally too? Like that you had such an impact on these certain players at maybe youth levels, and you still keep in touch, and they say, maybe they say, who was your best coach, or who's the most connected that you've been, and it's your name.
Yeah, of course. Listen, yeah, and even if it's not, you want it to be you, right? Because you want it to be a guy that's been an influence, but you can't always be. Maybe you're the small part, like I say, sometimes I am your next small step before your big step. And I'm okay with that. Like, You can't, it's not about us, right? It's about them. I don't want to say, yeah, my most influential person in my life is Coach Patrice. No, it's their families that they spend a lot of time. It's their mom and dads that pay bills and drive them to training, right? We're just there to support their dreams.
100%. That's why I ask these questions too, just to for me in my coaching journey to see and what to influence and how to influence these players in the most possible.
For sure.
I want to
Yeah.
see. I started coaching the female program 10 years ago, the 06 girls, and I now have a couple of them that started with me. They've gotten D1 scholarships. So I obviously wasn't a big piece to it, but I was a small piece that
Of course.
happened, which is obvious.
We all have a role, Mike. We all have a role.
I want to talk about the team this season quickly and what you expect from your team. Obviously, you don't need to give me any predictions where you're going to finish this or that, but
yeah,
your eyes, players coming in, that's obviously announced, of course, nothing given away, and where you expect this team to maybe finish it, as much as you can give me, of course, for the 2025 CPL campaign.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I think I looked at Forge, I looked at Pacific, I looked at Vancouver. A lot of teams have had massive turnovers. I believe us, and I even think York only brought back 5 guys. So we've brought back almost, I think, 14 players, 15 players. So we're second to Calgary with keeping the core together. Now, we've lost some really important pieces. Dan and Zach and Yan and Kel and Massimo Farron. These are all really big pieces, but we're happy for them. It was their decisions. We didn't want them to go, but they're at a place that they're going to continue their journey, and we want nothing but the best luck for them and part of their journey. But for us, we worked really hard to make sure, how do we replace those players? Do we go like for like, or do we change something? Do we bring in a player with a slightly different mentality? So he jumps higher, he jumps lower, he's faster, he's slower. How do we look to improve? So I think those have been a lot of conversations that we've had. And I think that the vision that we will have is, we're going to be a team that fights till the end. The one message that I've said clearly, and I've continued to say, is that we will be the hardest team to beat. Of course, we want to finish first, as every team does, but we want to be the team that beats the biggest teams in this league. And eventually, if you do that and you work hard and you fight till the end, things will work itself out. I'm not much for predictions, but obviously we have the ambition of making playoffs. Obviously, we have the ambition of wanting to have a home playoff game, which means third and higher. So that's what we're setting towards. There's a lot of key pieces that have come in that we haven't seen in our environment. Ryan Yesley, Thomas Millier-Gheisar, Isaiah Johnston. But we've recruited really carefully, and we're really excited to have them. And I think the people that we've brought in, most important thing, Nick, is we've brought in really good people, really strong characters. I think last year, with the bumps and bruises of red cards, late goals, we just felt we really need character. These are and people forget that in my 2 years combined, we're one of the top 2 teams in the CPL at home. Where we have struggled is on the road. Last year was really poor. So we just need to improve that.
And then I guess what would be your most exciting thing about this season, other than maybe get going? Is it just and maybe not even the success? What is the most thing that has come to you to say, okay, like I'm really looking forward to this campaign this year?
Yeah, I feel like I remember the 21 to 22, when the last game finished, League 1 and last year at CPL, I felt that same thirst to fix things, and where we lost to Oakville and we beat York in that last game. Although we were moving on, I felt like, okay, it's not about revenge. It's nothing like that, but we got to fix this. So I'm really looking forward to putting the pieces and the building blocks to get there, because it just doesn't happen by saying it. You have to put a lot of work into it. And I'm really excited to see some of these new members that we brought in and how they will contribute to the team, and more importantly, connect to the community and our fans. So I'm really excited about that and seeing how we do.
Well, listen, Patrice, I hope and wish the best of luck for you, for the team, CPL campaign. Obviously, it's going to be a tough journey, but I know you guys are looking forward to it and looking to make those fans proud because, like I said, Jordan Wilson from One Soccer said, maybe one of the best fan bases and the most exciting atmospheres is in Halifax and the most professional there. One of the top. So I really appreciate you coming on. I know it's a busy schedule. I know being a pro and scouting and doing all the things you need to do as a family man as well. So I appreciate you taking the time out, coming on as a guest, and best of luck this season.
Thanks, Nick. Thanks for having me on.
No problem. Everyone, this is the head coach of HFX Wanderers of the Canadian Premier League, Patrice Gheisar, former Vaughan Azzurri League1 Ontario coach as well. Obviously, my connection being the broadcaster for the Woodbridge Strikers. That's not a rivalry, is there? Of course it is. That's episode number 60, Footy Edition, number 16 of Mamma Mia. This is Fire Talk. We will have more Instagram lives and episodes looming on the horizon of any sport that you can think of. We are going to be doing it. I'm Nicholas Fiore, the host of the show, alongside Patrice Gheisar, Halifax Wanderers FC head coach of the CPL. Until next time, thank you for tuning in. Sponsored by The Bottom Line, Mamma Mia, and ciao.
That was Mamma Mia. This is Fire Talk, Footy Edition with Nicholas Fiore. Thank you for watching and listening, and stay tuned for the next episode.